I thought I would give this a try. A little bit of a random live broadcast from here in Kuala Lumpur. It's just gone, or it's just about to go 5 p.m. here, and I'm trying out some different software, which is really the reason for coming on and doing a live. Previously, I've used a couple of different programs to test out how live streaming works. And today I'm just going directly to YouTube just to see how this works. But I thought I would just turn it on, chat, tell you a couple of little topics that are going on. So let me say, last week and then into next week has felt like a couple of big weeks. Today is Sunday, the 23rd of November. And in the next couple of days, let's see, today we've booked into a Malaysian restaurant. Last week we went for the roast beef dinner. And this week I thought we would try some Malaysian food. And we've got booked into a local restaurant here. And we're in there from 6:30 tonight. So I'm looking forward to trying out some local cuisine. And I'm sure I'll hear in the comments and the feedback once I post that video what that's like. Good morning, Alan. Welcome, mate. Thanks for joining us to the stream. It's good to have people pop on, especially at this early time in the UK. So I appreciate you jumping on here. So we're going to go and have some food this evening here in Kuala Lumpur. And then tomorrow, I'll tell you what's big. I have to go back to the hospital. I need to go back to the hospital and see the doctor that did the surgeries, the couple of different surgeries, which was to fit stents and then also treated me for the sepsis. So I'm going back to see him tomorrow, 9:30 tomorrow morning. So I'm a little bit nervous about that because it's felt like a couple of weeks of recovery, and I'm kind of hoping he's going to give me the thumbs up, the tick that everything is okay, because I'm really desperate to get into the swimming pool and have a swim. Good morning, Sean, mate. Welcome. Thanks for joining me, buddy. I see this is probably much more Bangkok friendly time for you to be able to join. So I'm going back there to the hospital tomorrow. And if he gives me the thumbs up, the big tick, and everything's okay, then hopefully I can get in the swimming pool. And that would be nice to go for a swim because I'm missing that. I haven't had that in weeks because of having surgery. Can't really get in a pool because it's not really hygienic with what you would define as an open wound. It's not really an open wound, but you know what I mean. In recovery. Good morning, Julie. So it would be awesome to be able to get back in the swimming pool because I'm really missing that. I'm missing the exercise side of having a pool in your own apartment block. It feels like you're spending money on these things, and in reality, not able to use it. So we got that on Monday. That's quite exciting. Nervous and exciting. And then on Tuesday, we'll move apartments. We'll be out of this location where I think we've spent 31 nights in total. We've stayed here. And then we'll move locations. And that will mean that this week I've got some videos to make. So off the top of my head, we'll go for the Malaysian food tonight, which I'll make a little bit of a video out of. And then I'll update you on what the doctor says about the health situation and hopefully thumbs up, big tick, whatever that is. And then this is also the time period when I get paid from Google. So I'll be able to update you on what my month's earnings look like for October. So that will come in a couple of days' time. I'll cover off exactly what I've earned from YouTube, what the views have looked like from October, because we're always a month behind. I'll be able to give you a cost of this apartment that we've stayed in for the 31 nights, what that's been like as well, to share that with you, give you a kind of cost of living. And then I'll also do a wider roundup of like what we've spent in the month. So what has a month's living looked like outside of just the apartment, but grab taxis, going to dinners with pals and bangser and all of those kind of things, eating out tonight, for example, and just going to the supermarket and some medicine. I also actually went shopping. And I've told you on videos before that I've got too many t-shirts. I went to a shop here in the Petronas Mall and I bought 3 t-shirts mainly because I need to get rid of these like cotton t-shirts and go down to these like quick dry. So I bought a couple of t-shirts. So I'm just going to do a roundup video on all of the costs and we'll move location. So it feels like a busy week ahead. And the week that I've just left behind, the end of this week, made videos, I think pretty much most days, if not every day. But I've also had clients or people that I've been working with about this lifestyle. I've had 4 calls this week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, with different people who have reached out to me through email and said, we're in a variety of different ways thinking about leaving the UK. Some that are fully sold their house, in the middle of selling their house, nearly done, signing missives, doing all of that kind of stuff, and are packing up and ready to go. And so I've had calls with a couple there that are doing that. And then some individual people who are at different stages. Really just, I met one gentleman who was really just interested in talking about maybe the next couple of years and just sounding out what this looks like a little bit, not just nomad style life, but living out here in Kuala Lumpur and talking about the benefits of here versus some other regions like Thailand or Vietnam and talking about that. So 4 calls I've had this week. 3 of them were 1 hour and 1 of them was 2 hours. And I love that chat and I love the engagement. It takes a lot of brain power for me because it's a lot of kind of talking and I do a bit of research before those people are giving me a bit of ins and outs of their lives. So I do a bit of research. The 2-hour call was with a couple who have YouTube channels. So I'm kind of helping them with their content. And it's been great because they're now away working on their channels and they've posted some videos and we've seen some results from that. And I'm feeling encouraged and they're feeling encouraged. So that's been really quite exciting. So I've been doing those this week and making videos. And then next week, I've probably got space for maybe 1, if not 2 maximum calls next week. And then between all of that, go to the doctors, move locations and make the videos that I want to make. So it kind of feels like there's a lot going on before we then start to settle back into new location. We've unpacked, done all of that kind of stuff. And before we move locations, I need to think about downsizing some of my stuff. So yeah, I've just bought 3 t-shirts, but I need to get rid of more. I've got 3 pairs of joggies that I need to get rid of. So if there's anybody watching this and you're interested in reaching out, you can do that. Drop me a note down below. And also, when I do the video roundup about my earnings, that's normally when I try and pick somebody that's been interacting with the channel, with emails or whatever, is just supporting this channel. And then I'll pick somebody and buy you dinner or your weekly shopping. I've done that twice already. Victoria was the first and Anne-Marie was the second. And it's the 3rd time now that I'll do that. So if you're interested in that, just leave a comment down below or on one of the videos and that's it. I'll just pick somebody that I think, thanks for your support on the channel. I'm also trying to use my mail list for doing that. So thanks to the few hundred people that have signed up already. And if you're interested, details are down below. And so, yeah, good morning, Chris. Welcome. Hope you're good. Thanks for joining me. And so last week also, one of the kind of big topics, I've done a couple of live chats so far, and those have always kind of centered around money, finance, like how I manage my income, my investments, what platforms I use. So let's talk a little bit about that, right? Because the last week, the stock market was pretty wild. I've talked before about crypto, and I've talked a little bit about SoFi, and I've talked about BMNR, which is Tom Lee, where they're buying Ethereum. And last week, you would have seen the unpredictability of the stock market where everybody was really waiting for NVIDIA's results. And when the results came out, they were phenomenal. And as a result, the stock ran up about 5% and then dropped heavily. And there was a lot of speculation as to why it dropped. That's me kicking a chair, by the way. Michael Burry, who had taken out a short on AI as a general, had closed down his fund because his investors had got nervous. And he said in his X post that he put out, "I'm not wrong, I'm just early," which is famously what he had said way back in the original 2008 crash when he was shorting the housing market. But many people speculate Michael Burry's predicted 3 or 4 of the or 50 of the last 3 or 4 crashes, right? That's the joke behind it. He talks about this all the time. So stocks that I look at, things like SoFi and BMNR, took a heavy drop, right? And I had some people reach out to me in the comments and said, "Hey, are you worried about this? I hope you weren't too heavy on BMNR." And I'm not heavy on it. I have I have a small investment in it that I'm comfortable with, but watching it pull back like 25%, 30% is never easy. And that's why when I talk to people, I always try and say to them, like, I have a blend, right? I earn some money here on YouTube. I hold money, cash in an ISA. I have some cash in an interest savings account, just an interest earning account. And because I'm out of the UK, I have to pay tax on that part. I don't pay tax on anything that I earn on my ISA because it's within the ISA. I just can't add more money to the ISA account because I'm out of the country. And the reason I keep some money in a UK interest account and I pay tax on that is because it's just easy access. If there's an emergency, like ending up in the hospital, for example, I've got money that I can get there. So I'm okay with paying tax on that. And then I hold a little bit of crypto and then I hold stocks and shares. And within those stocks and shares, I write options. So I'm across, I don't know, like 6 or 7 different ways of earning a little cash here or there. I am not completely dependent on one source. I don't have properties in the UK. I'm not earning from income from that side of it. Like I'm just effectively trying to make sure that I have different areas that I've got money that I can earn from. However, I would say this is where your tolerance from risk comes in, right? The stock market doesn't just always go up. We've had about 6 to 8 months worth of just continual climbing. And if you were new to this, you'd be thinking, oh, well, this is easy. This is just how you make money. I got into the stock market and started to invest in 2020, just before lockdowns came in. And I watched stocks that I invested in. I'll give you an example. SoFi, which was a SPAC at the time when I bought into it. And I think it launched at about $22 and I bought it. It was called IPOE. And I was buying it at about 20 odd dollars. And then when it became a SPAC and launched onto the market, it then became, it was called SoFi. So it changed from being called IPOE to SoFi. And I was investing at $22 and it ran up to like $28 and I still continued to buy. And then over the next 2 years, I watched it go from $28 to $4, right? And that's when you're like, you really feel tested, right? However, I was buying that stock because I really believed in it. Me personally, it's not advice to you guys. It was just me buying into it because I was kind of reading about the company and could see the vision and believed in it. It's a growth stock, but it carries risks, right? Going all the way to 4 was painful to watch. But for me, over that time, whilst I was earning in a job, I was still buying and I was still buying. So what I was doing was I was effectively dollar cost averaging. So I was bringing down my costs by continuing to buy. So where my average might have been, let's say $20, $22, I was bringing that down and down and down. And then from 2020 of doing that till now, 2025, I've watched it go from 22, 28, down to 4, up to 7, up to 10, up to 15, up to 20, up to 25, up to 30, and recently as high as about 35. And so then when I watch it pull back a little bit and I watch it drop to where it's been at the last couple of days, 25, it was at on Thursday, I'm still sitting in a relatively comfortable position and I don't have any plans to sell that stock. But that's a real lesson there that the market just doesn't always go up. And I'm not relying on that money. I have cash and I have other investments and I earn here. So I'm not relying on the stock to deliver my money. Now, so there's the lesson there is if you're thinking about doing this kind of way of life or you're looking for where to put your money, you have to really kind of understand the risks that are attached to it. And so if you're super risk adverse, then maybe an ETF that tracks the S&P 500 or an index fund or something like that's maybe more comfortable. There are people that live off of dividends from stocks where they're maybe in the energy sector or those kind of markets where they're less volatile. I'm invested in a couple of EDF, energy company, ETFs, that are effectively tracking the S&P 500, for example, which just has a low growth rate, less volatile. But if you're looking to kind of generate good returns, then some of these stocks, like for example, like a SoFi. So when you watch it pull back, then what I have to remind myself is where it's came from, where I've watched it go over those last years. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that because I was getting some messages in the comments saying, "Oh, what do you think about this?" And also the other one that I've talked about, which is BMNR, which is tied to Ethereum. You'll have seen Bitcoin has gone from what 120, and it's been down as low as like 87, and it's kind of floating around that level. Again, crypto for me, I only hold a little bit of Ethereum, and it's a long term. It's a long term for me. I'm not thinking about I need that money in 6 months' time or I need that money in a year. I've held a little bit of Ethereum for years. I'll continue to hold it down the line, watching for the kind of long term part of it. But if you're looking at those areas and you're thinking about where to put your money, you have to really consider your appetite for risk there. Now, where's my appetite for risk? When I do these surveys, when I fill in these questionnaires, if I was going to put some money into Nutmeg, for example, in the past, I tend to sit at about a 6. So between 1 and 10, right? So a little bit, I'm willing to go a little bit, but not too much because I kind of want a little bit of safety out of the money that I've earned. So that's kind of gives you an idea where I sit. I'm not a gambler. I'm not looking to chase insane wins. I'm not looking for penny stocks to go to dollars. I'm interested in a couple of companies that I think have got a long-term strategy. I can hear the management team talk about the businesses and really recognize where they're going. So when I see market changes like we've seen in the last couple of weeks, and this is all driven by the AI situation, where people are looking into open AI themselves as a business. And they've talked a little bit about maybe needing a bailout from the US government. And that's what's really rocked the market. So I'm invested in, like, to come back to it, SoFi. SoFi is a bank, it's a fintech. It doesn't really have AI in its play. So it's being pulled down just because the market is being pulled down. The business fundamentals haven't changed. The management team haven't changed. The goals of the business haven't changed. The results that they've produced over the last year's worth now haven't changed. So this is what I'm looking at. And when I listen then to Tom Lee from BMNR, who's speculating that there's a couple of big hedge funds that are seriously over leveraged, who have been, using the bank's money to invest and are starting to get a little bit wobbly. And that wobble was coming because there's some correlations between the Japanese yen and the US market. And it looked like Japan might increase interest rates. And the last time that happened was about 10 months ago. And there was a wobble in the market because people were over leveraged and they didn't know about it at the time. They got caught out and suddenly stocks in the US pulled back. It kind of looks like that might happen, or people are trying to get ahead of it, trying to get ahead of the announcement of an interest rate increase in Japan because the yen is getting a little bit out of control. So that's kind of what that looks like to me. But that means that people have had to dump their crypto to cover their investments that they've got from a hedge fund perspective. Like me and you buying a few shares here and there. We're not tipping the market in any way. These are billions of dollars of stock being moved around that we're retail traders. You're just along for the ride, and it's trying to figure out, do I want to hold this longer term? Do I see growth in this? And I saw Tom Lee talking about this on a couple of interviews that he done now. I think he had like a 12 billion portfolio that's been reduced by 3 or 4 billion in the way that the market's shifted for Ethereum. So it'll be interesting to watch. It'll be interesting. And for me, what am I doing with the stocks that I hold? Nothing. I actually bought just a tiny bit more of each of them to again pull my buy price down. Somebody's singing in the corridor out there, so if you hear that, it's not Yvonne. She's not in the shower. It's just somebody else. So that's an area that you just kind of need to keep an eye on, that if you are looking to do those investments. But for me, I just look at it and I think, well, is it affecting my stocks in any way? Not really. Not really. I mean, sure, the prices are coming down, and profit that I would have made, but it's only profit if you're selling. And I'm not looking to sell right now on those because they're long-term holds for me. So I've got to see past the wobble right now. And then on Friday, there was some suggestion that maybe a bailout from the US government. There was a little bit of talk about this because ultimately the US government doesn't want AI companies to fail because then ultimately China takes over. And this is a technology race that's going on right now between the US and also with China, in terms of who's going to deliver the leading AI. So quite fascinating to watch. But yeah, I thought I would cover that because people were asking me about it. How do you know where I've been this morning for the first time since we've arrived here? The gym. And I felt super motivated. I woke up this morning, I was feeling pretty good. I thought, I've got the doctors tomorrow. I'm hoping I'm going to get this thumbs up. Everything's going to be okay. And I'm going to go to the gym this morning and use some of the facilities that are in this building that we've effectively paid for before we move out on Tuesday. And so I went to the gym this morning. It was empty in there. And all I did, like, I'm 47, right? And I haven't worked out. I'm not lifting weights and exercising. I haven't done anything this year. So I'm having to go into it a little bit easy. It's probably been the middle of last year since I've done anything. So I got on a treadmill. The gym is on the 48th floor. And there was a storm rolling in this morning. So you can always see it in the distance. You can see the greyness coming towards you. It's quite spectacular. It reminds me of the film The Fog, where it just rolls in, right? And that was quite cool to watch. So I was up there on the 48th floor watching the fog roll in, which was then followed by the rain. And I was up there and I was just on a treadmill. I was literally just walking, just at a decent pace, getting a walk in. And I think there was maybe 3 other people in the gym. This is like 10, 11 o'clock this morning. And then I got on a bike and I did a little bit of exercise on the bike. And after that, did a little bit of leg exercise and just kind of felt good. Like, temptation being a guy is always like you go into the gym and you just start smashing stuff, right? And then for the next 2 days, you walk around with dinosaur arms because your biceps and your joints and everything's aching because you've overdone it, right? And I'm wise enough in the head now not to do that. So I just got on the treadmill, got on a bike. I was in there for maybe an hour and got a bit of a sweat on. And then I came back to the apartment. Yvonne was here. She was having it was like a spa when I walked in here. She had a gold face mask on, looking like a James Bond villain, gold face mask on. She had an aquarium screensaver on the TV playing like plinky plonky music. So it was like I walked into a spa and immediately addressed the fact that she looked like a James Bond villain. And then after that, we watched a movie. We watched a film with Colin Farrell, which is on Netflix just now, called The Ballad of a Small-Time Player, something like that, where he's in Macau as a card player playing Baccarat. And it was great. Really enjoyed it. Love Colin Farrell. He's such a great actor. So that was really good. Good morning, Ben. Good morning, Discover with TX. And good morning, Richard. Britain to Beyond, new channel name, like it. Thought I would say good morning to all of you. So thanks for joining me in this little bit of a chat. It's just a little impromptu. Thought I would jump on now. In the gym, right? They had scales. And I've been so like, what weight am I? I haven't checked. Yvonne and I used to have digital scales in our house, and that would be a routine we check every day. Now, when I'm at my heaviest, when I worked with people in my last couple of jobs, they would call me Summer John and Winter John. Summer John was when I was like on it. I'd be out on my bikes, keeping super fit, lean, going to the gym. And then Winter John was like, came in from like late September through to like February, where I would just I'm like the Ricky Hatton, right? I'd just putting on RIP Ricky Hatton. Be putting on loads of weight, eating all the Christmas sweeties and the dinners and everything else. And so I could swing from the very lowest of about 12 stone. I'm 6'1", 12 stone, where I'd be doing big miles on the bike, like a regularly riding 20, 30 mile in an evening, and then at a weekend doing maybe like somewhere between 70 and 100 miles on a weekend bike ride. And so I would go from like 12 stone, and my heaviest would be somewhere around 14 or and change, right? So I saw the scales upstairs in the gym and I was like, oh, temptation's too much for me not to do that. So I stepped on them, stepped on the scales, and it was 82 kilograms, which is 12 stone 9. I've got to say, I was pretty happy about that. And I was feeling quite motivated about it. So I was kind of thinking I'd like to try and, if the doc says tomorrow everything's okay, introduce a little bit of exercise and share a little bit about that with you, like whether it's a swim or a workout or whatever. Just because when you're heading towards your 50s, which we are, the temptation is to kind of let that stuff go a little bit. And I'm never very good at being good at everything. I'm not trying to say I'm good at everything, but when I'm like making content and I'm like laser focused on that, and I'm working with a couple of people during the week on their goals to get out the UK and their channels, and I'm laser focused on all of that, then that's where I'm at. And other things slide. And so when things slide, that might be I'm not bringing the exercise piece into it as well as I could be, or I'm not eating quite as well as I probably could. And so I'm trying to focus a little bit more on that. And then if I say it here, which I'm doing now, right, when I'm talking about it to you, kind of feels like I have to hold myself accountable a little bit, because if I say it, then I feel duty bound to kind of do it, to absolutely do it. And in terms of how spectacular it was, Ben, it was just see, it's like you see it coming, and our window here looks on to KL Tower in the distance. And sometimes you can see it as clear as day, or at night it flashes, right? And it's cool to watch. It catches your eye from sometimes when you're sitting in the living room or on the bed. It catches your eye. And then sometimes when the weather rolls in, it just completely disappears from your eye line. And you're like, here comes the weather. And people are asking me, like, is it cooler? What about the rain? It's only going to get worse. We love the rain. It's the Scottishness in us. It rolls in and it just looks cool. And then you get this kind of storm for a bit, especially the lightning. And then it just clears. And see, after that, it's just so cool. So it's been raining most of today. It's 5:25 now. We're going to this restaurant at 6:30. I went to the gym thinking, work up a hunger because it's Malaysian food. There's going to be a bit of rice. It's going to be some nice kind of coconutty dishes with meats and some vegetarian stuff. So go and earn it. That's where I was at this morning. And see, when I shift like that, it gives me focus. And so for the next days, if everything's okay tomorrow and the doctor's like, cool, you're good, then I can get back in the pool and do a little bit of swimming. And then I'll start to shift what I'm eating and focus on that a little bit as well. So that's going to be over the next few days as to what comes up. So those are the videos that I've got. Google AdSense, how much money I've made in October. What the doctor says, little roundup on it. How much this apartment's cost, show you, give you a tour of this apartment, the building itself, let you see where we've stayed for 31 days and how much it's cost. And then an overall cost of living for this month, like how much, because last month it was like £2,800, which included 1,000 to fly here with Emirates through Dubai. And then we spent £1,800 in the month for the apartment and living. So we won't have the flight costs this month. And then I haven't tallied it up. I've just been living. So I haven't gone out my way to cut the costs. I've just been buying things when I needed, eating when we needed, when we were out, and cutting. So, we went out for dinner the other night. And then yesterday, for example, yesterday was Saturday. We never left the apartment the whole day. We watched 2 films. We watched an old classic film with Rutger Hauer called Split Second from 1992, where global warming has affected London and the London city is underwater. It goes to show you how long they've been talking to us about global warming. But 1992 with Rutger Hauer, Split Second, great film. Really enjoyed watching that. It's kind of like a British version of Blade Runner in some ways. So we watched that. What was the other film we watched, Funny? Can't think what the second film was. We watched another one. That's how good, obviously, that was. It's went right out of my head straight away. Red Rocket, which was about a kind of a prawn star American guy who's kind of lost his career. It was like a bit of a gritty drama, quite interesting, quite good. So we watched 2 films yesterday, and we had some food in. The reason I'm telling you about that is we had salads that we'd bought from the nearby supermarket. You know, these pre-made boxed salads, like a kind of no meats inside them, so just all the leaves. So we had this kind of Italian salad, and I was looking it up to see how much it cost. It was like 7.50, 7 ringgit 50, which I think is like £1.80. You put a little bit of tuna in it and a little bit of cheese. So some days we go for dinner and we spend like 100 ringgit, which is like £17. And some days we just go to the supermarket and buy kind of pre-made salad that costs like £1.80. So you can really kind of move things around. I know not many people cover those topics and say, "Oh, I spent £1.80 on a salad," but that's kind of what we were doing yesterday. And that was the day. We didn't even leave the apartment. We just had a lazy Saturday and kind of enjoyed some movies and chilling out because we're trying to treat this like we're living at home. Some days when we were in the UK in Northampton, you know, some days we would do work and then we'd finish with the work and have something to eat that you would make, and then that's you. You're not going out. You know, you're not on. We're not on holiday. We're living here. That's the part of it. And beyond all of that, one other part was that I've started to have a think about a longer term visa for here, and I did some research about a Nomad visa, which I think we might consider applying for. Now we leave Malaysia in late December, and we're off to the next location. And then we come back here mid to late January. And we've booked the next accommodation as well, which is we've really kind of we've pulled back on the spend there to see what it's like because it's just worth testing. We're in it for a month. When we're down the line, I'll show you what the costs are. I think you might be blown away by how simply you can live out here. We've stayed in the city centre. We've spent higher costs to be in the city centre to just get this bit of life to kind of acclimatise a little bit. And that will be in the next couple of videos. I'll share it with you. But we've gone super cheap in January into February. And then we're kind of beyond that. We haven't made any more decisions. So we've got a flight out. We've got the next location, the next country. We've got a month there, then a return back here, and we've got that location all pre-booked. It's kind of nice to get that out of your mind and just paid for and dealt with. So that's all happening in the next, what's that? Takes us all the way to the middle of February, already organised. That feels weird sitting here, tail end of November. And I made a video a few days ago talking about costs of living or ways to make money on YouTube. And I talked through 14 different ways. And I mentioned number one was about AdSense earnings on YouTube. Now, AdSense differs at different points of the year, depending on what's happening. And what brands and companies are willing to spend on YouTube is much higher in November and December than it is in January and February. It actually falls off because companies stop advertising. Of course, now it's heading into holiday period. So you got Black Friday and you got Christmas coming up. So advertisers are spending to promote their products and brands, which means the value is higher. So some of my earnings just now looks good. Now I'm watching other YouTubers who are saying versus previous years, it's much lower. That they have the same amount of views, but they're earning less for this period. Now, I have nothing to go on there. I just have my experience for right now, and I'm creating videos and putting things out, and I'm seeing the usual, you know, like you see the ups and downs. November, I've had one massive video with the HMRC topic that I covered that's earned really, really well. And I'll cover that once we get into December, because in the next couple of days when I give you my earnings, that's October. So I have nothing to base this on. I've not been on YouTube before, but I'm watching other content creators saying my views are the same, but I'm earning less this year. And I think that's representative of the economic climate, right? People are spending less on things, and therefore brands are having to pull back because they're maybe not seeing the level of sales that they've seen in the past, so they're having to trim their marketing budget. The last company that I worked for, I've heard from some people there saying, yeah, we're having to scale back a little bit. We're just kind of watching. We're deciding how much we invest in marketing. So this is all a trickle effect. But what I'm trying to do just now is just make sure that, whatever earnings that I bring through, but I'm aware that when January and February comes, the money that you make from the views that you get is going to go through the floor. And so that's another thing that I would share with you if you are creating content. It's not consistent every month. You don't earn the same from the views because your views differ, but how much companies are willing to spend on marketing also changes, which is why you're kind of looking then for other areas to make money. So having 4 calls this week has brought in a little bit of extra cash and meeting with people and talking to them about their businesses and helping out. And then beyond that, looking at stocks and shares going up and down, having cash. So you kind of need to have ways to make money if you're thinking about kind of doing this way of life. So those are a few different things that I think we've covered off there. So good morning, Wobbly Wheeler. Nice to see you too. Thanks for joining us. I haven't been in any bike shops here. I have seen bike shops, mainly when I've been in a taxi, to be honest. I haven't actually seen... I'll tell you the last bike shop that I was in. When I was in Dubai, there was a giant shop in the mall where our friends lived on the Palm. Our pals live in the Palm, and there was a bike shop in the mall there, and it was by Giant. So I went in because, I love that kind of thing, going in and pulling the brake levers and kicking the tires, as Yvonne says. Was that a good bike? Because you've pulled the bike levers, you've checked the brakes, and she's like, oh, is that a good bike? So I haven't been in a bike shop here, and I actually haven't seen any in the main malls. It's all been kind of the big brands. See, we're going into the Petronas Towers tonight, to the mall there, to a restaurant there for this Malaysian food. When you go in, the different levels have different kind of themes. So it's like the food courts and stuff are on the ground floor, then some on the higher, like 7th floor. There's a kind of makeup and perfume floor. The floor that we walk in on is a lot of jewelry and high-end brands like Cartier and Rolex. There's a lot of people in the mall. There's a lot of people around shopping, but there's not many people in those stores. And I'm always curious as to like how much money they're actually making. They've all got security guards on the doors, and the place is well maintained, well looked after. They're beautiful malls, especially the Petronas. It's what you would expect. It's such an iconic piece of architecture, those 2 towers in the park. But I'm always curious, like, who's going in and buying Rolex watches or Cartier watches, and you very rarely see people in them. So I'm always curious about that. Now, there's many other shops, right? There's shoe shops, and there's a Marks and Spencer's, which kind of makes you think about home. There's a Marks and Spencer's over there. So I'm sure there's people going in there. We've been in the supermarket. There's a supermarket called Cold Storage, which is just amazing inside, like really high end, kind of like a Waitrose or something, right? Just really nice and okay cost wise. It costs when we've gone to the supermarket, mainly because we're buying things from back home, cookies, or you're just picking things up that you kind of recognize. They tend to be a little bit more expensive. And what I mean by that is they kind of cost the same as back home. Like if you were going shopping in Waitrose or Sainsbury's or whatever, you're kind of spending the same level. We've done a couple of days shopping, and it's been like £40 or £50 here when we've done the exchange piece of it. But the reality is you can eat out for less money than you can go to the supermarket. Now, again, that's because we are buying... some of the jars are like Sainsbury's jars when you're in these shops, and you're like, this is just Sainsbury's products. So there's some of that going on. But when we eat out or we order something, it tends to be much cheaper. There's a restaurant across the road from us, coffee shop restaurant. And Yvonne's gone over a couple of nights to just pick something up and bring it back. And we've had like lasagna, or we had a beef dish the other night that was a kind of Malaysian dish that I had that was with rice, and it was delicious. And it was like, I think the cost of it was like £3 or £4. So cheap for like a takeaway meal. And obviously there was no delivery cost because she just went across and picked it up. So we've done that a couple of times, and that keeps the cost down. But I'll round all of that up in the middle of the next week. And so I'll give you a total as to everything that we've spent between the taxis and insurance and living and everything else, and come back to you on all of that kind of stuff. So that was just a little I thought we'd just drop on, give you a little bit of chat. If there's any questions anybody's got just now, feel free to drop it in the text and I'll answer it just now as a bit of free form. But I thought I would go through that. Been to the gym, felt good, felt kind of energized my brain a little bit. Had four calls last week with people looking to do this way of life. I've started investigating a little bit into a longer term visa for here, but we'll think that through. And then I'm at the doctor's tomorrow. And then beyond that, we'll move apartments on Tuesday. So north and forth. I can't tell you just now who my travel insurance is with because I'm in a dispute with them about the handling of me falling ill. I have raised a formal complaint and I'm in the middle of that right now. So I don't want to tell you because I don't want to put any of that at risk. I can tell you that the formal complaint is going to take weeks. There was a 3-day window, then a 4-week window, followed by a following 4-week window, and I'm in the middle of all of that. But it will make a hell of a story when I get around to telling you. It's been difficult. I would say the stress that it has created and the level of administration on me has been a lot. But as soon as I've done all of that, I'll share it with you. But until then, do I miss DJing? No. I mean, I have a USB pen with me, which has got all of my music from Rekordbox, and I've got my laptop, which has got Rekordbox. So if I ever want to just play something and do it, I can do it. You know, if there was an opportunity to go play a club or something, I could do that. I mean, I'm not looking for that to happen, but I always think in these situations, a USB pen's like this big, right? So have that. DJing was the kind of creative stuff for me, and now this is it. So it's like you fill a gap, right? So the way that I kind of always deal with things is that I plug a gap with something else. I've talked about this before, right? And I'll cover it again. People get weird when I mention this, right? But I deal with ADHD, and it wasn't really something I had recognized in myself until a few years ago. And people say, oh, it's overprescribed, it's everything else. You know, if Yvonne jumped on this and was asked, do you think John's got ADHD? She would be like, yeah, 100%. Because I get this feeling in my belly, in my stomach, in my chest. If I haven't done something, so see yesterday when we sat in the apartment the whole day and we watched 2 films, I had to make a video before I did that because I'll go insane if I don't. It's like an output. It kind of feels like a gyroscope or something. And if I don't do something, I just start to lose my mind. So I can't not be doing something. So by creating these videos, that's my output. That's my creative stuff that comes out. And if I have a day where I don't make anything, by the following day, I have to do something. So exercise or make a video or come on live and talk about something is my output. And DJing was it for years. So as long as I shift through those topics, I'm okay. And that's kind of it. But beyond that, if I don't do it, I start to feel like I feel off. I don't know if that makes sense. So the ADHD part in there, it's just this need to create. And then I go through like a kind of burnout after that. Once I've done it, I'm like, oh, I feel okay. I can kind of relax after that. And that's kind of how I've lived my life, is like always putting people that know me, or maybe you've seen on this, it's like all or nothing. I either give you everything or just nothing at all. And that's just how I am. So when it came to sales, when it came to my job, when it came to DJing, writing music, exercise, it's everything. And then burn out and move on. And that's not what they say that I'm burning out of this. I love doing this. It's just the difference in topics really, really helps. Good morning, Kaza. Thanks for joining us. We're just having a little impromptu chat. And good morning, Mark, mate. I hope you're well. Kidney stones, all good. Back at the doctor's tomorrow, so all going well. Thumbs up. And then I can get back in the pool and start to feel like I can exercise a little bit. Britain to beyond, one of those ADHD questions: do you feel driven by a motor? Yeah, somebody that can relate to that topic, I think. Somebody that understands. It's like if I laser in on something, right? If something ticks the box for me, and whether that's learning about finance and stocks and shares, or learning how to do live broadcasts like this, I can spend hours and hours and hours getting right into it. Now, see, when it comes to sitting down and reading a book, I cannot focus. I can listen to the book as a narration and get locked into it, but I have to be doing something else. I have to be on a treadmill or on a turbo trainer on my bike, podcast or audiobook in my ear, and I can retain it. Give me the book in a quiet room, my brain will never lock in on that. So I consume a lot of information through YouTube is my resource there. I consume a lot of information through videos, and I'll go back. If you want to understand that, like, I can watch a video, a movie, listen to an album over and over and over again and not get bored by it. If I want to watch something once and be done, like, move on, I'm over that, I'm good. I can listen to an album by a band that I like and listen to it straight away again and again, like, Bart Simpson pressing a button on a toy, bam, bam, bam. Like, that's me. I can just go over and over, and that's kind of the cycle. I get the same dopamine hit from that thing again and again, and then I retain a lot of that information. But sit with a book in a quiet room, I'll go insane. I'll go nuts. Not for me. It would be interesting for you to create a food channel. Do you know, I kind of do have a food channel. I have this Nostalgia Bites, which I was making some food content here, and it just didn't really feel right at the time. So I broke it out to another channel, and I was making things about old things that you would have from your childhood. But again, to bring it back to the ADHD thing, I was spreading myself really thin. I was doing a food channel, I had a music channel, I was doing this channel, and I was recognizing that I wasn't putting the effort where it was really needed. And so I had to rein that in. And so some things have to go. Like I said earlier, I'm not good at doing 10 things at once. I'm good at doing a couple of things at once. And for me right now, that's working on this channel, enjoying the travel, helping some people out. I've built the newsletter, which is giving me something else. And then beyond that, I'm building a little bit of a website for that just now as well. So that's giving me something else to focus on. And if I have too many things, I do nothing. I suffer from fatigue or decision paralysis. And again, the ADHDers that are on the chat will be like, yep. When you just find yourself lying on the bed and you're like, I don't know what to do next. That is a real challenge for me when I have too many things. So if I just focus in on a couple of things, I can do them really well and get them to a level that I'm comfortable with. That's my output. I use to read books. Yeah. Again, there's Speechify. That sounds interesting. I'll need to have a look for that. I actually was using an app recently which would take a page on a website or a book, and it would highlight the first couple of letters. Because what I tend to find is that my brain, didn't mean to bump my mic there. My brain is running so far ahead. Right, so far ahead on the text, and I'm not taking it in. I'm like speed reading it, but I'm not retaining it. And I got this app that basically allowed you to load in a web page and then read it. And what it does is it capitalizes and it emboldens the first couple of letters. And then for some reason, my brain reacts very different to it. It was developed for people with ADHD. So I found that quite fascinating to see that app. Again, it's one of those things, like, I'm much better when it comes to like video content. I can just watch video after video after video and learn from it. Let me see what else we've got here. Hello, Lee. How's it going? Followed you since earlier this year. Loving your content. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I always get a little bit embarrassed when people tell me, like, watching this and loving it and all that. You never quite know how to react. But other than to say, I genuinely appreciate that. I treat all of this like a community. I read what people say to me. try and answer every comment when I can. Sometimes that takes me days to get back to. I get a lot of emails from people that, especially with a lot of detail in them, and I read them and try and get back to people. And then beyond that, I've now been working with some people looking to do this kind of same thing as Yvonne and I, live in this nomad way. I'll tell you, it was quite encouraging the other night when we were having dinner with Michael and his dad, Ron, and his dad being an accountant, and we were just chatting about some of this stuff. And I was sitting there listening to Ron as we were talking about like tax and P85 documentations and selling things and what to declare and what not to and everything else, for me in my head to be like tick, 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 all the things that I've learned over the last years. I'm not an accountant. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just a guy who's learned as much as he can. And then beyond that is living it. When I started this channel at the beginning of the year, I said we would go on an adventure. And I feel like we're in the middle of it, at the beginning of all of that now. And we won't get everything right. We'll make mistakes. Things will go wrong. Hospital visits and 13 grand bills and bloody ABBA and money, money, money songs and wet, 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 and all that will come along. But I'm still learning. So then when I meet somebody who knows a lot of this stuff and kind of validates some of the things that I've been thinking about and working on, that felt, though, that's like a dopamine hit where you're like, yes. We got that right. Roti Kanai. I'll be brutalizing the way I say these things, right? Because that's just my brain and my Scottish accent as well. We're just going to a Malaysian restaurant in 30 minutes. I'm going to wrap this up in a minute or two. We're going to a Malaysian restaurant because I was getting the feeling that if we just went and had another English or British dish on a Sunday, people would be like, mate, what are you doing? So I was very conscious of that this morning. I said to Yvonne, we need to go and have some Malaysian food. So we're going into the Petronas Towers and we're going to a Malaysian restaurant. And I know that I'm sure when I tell you where we've gone, people will be like, oh, you went there. There'll still be something wrong with it because that's YouTube for you, right? Even when you're trying to figure out the right things to do, it probably isn't right for everybody. But we're going to go across there and have some food. And that's why I went to the gym this morning, because I was like, earn this. Last week when we went for the roast beef dinner, I fasted the day before, didn't have any snacks in the evening. This morning when I woke up, I was like, earn this dinner, go and enjoy a nice meal tonight and sit and relax a little bit, but earn it. So that was me on the treadmill this morning. Good morning, Jenny. Nice to see you, pal. Hope you're good. Right. Any other questions? A couple of minutes extra. Any other topics that bounce up, and I will otherwise jump off.
Lyndon was asking, share what camera and editing software you use.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Lyndon. I've just saw that camera. So it's a DJI Osmo Pocket 3. That's what I'm talking to you right here, not my laptop screen. I'm using this little microphone that I got from Amazon. It's got this colors on it, which just plugs in USB-C. I don't think it's called a Fifi, which is Fine. It's called Fine. Got it from Amazon, cheap as hell. It was like £40 or something. It's pretty good though, and these colors change as well. So I'm using that. Editing software, I use CapCut to edit my videos. I use a pro account, which I think costs like £180 for the year. I've used Final Cut. I've used Adobe. But I ended up just using CapCut because it was just easier and I didn't need plugins and everything else. All of the details are on my descriptions. So if you go to the description of the video, all of the products that I use with Amazon links to take you, I make a couple of percentage if you buy any of that because it's an affiliate link. And as I mentioned in the 14 ways to make money, so far I've made zero from all of that, but they're in there anyway because it just makes life easy. So Osmo Pocket 3 camera here, and then this microphone. And today, normally I use a program called Riverside, which is how I do the live broadcasts. But I think it's like $25 a month. And today I thought I would just do this test stream and connect straight to YouTube and just see how it goes, because Riverside has a audio suppressor. So when noise goes on, when the fridge kicks in or I kick a chair or somebody starts singing in the corridor, it keeps all of that out. And I'm sure this stream will have picked all that up because it doesn't have that technology. But I thought, let's just try this. Let's just see how it looks. Somebody messaged me about the last live stream and said it looked like I'd filmed it on a potato. And that kind of thing hurts my feelings because I try and always make these look as good as possible. So when they said that, I thought, well, let's try this a slightly different way. So, all right, well, that's been an hour. I'd only planned to come on for 30 minutes and I've talked the ears off you. So I appreciate everybody listening in. This will be available for a replay. So if anybody's caught some of it or wants to know a bit more about any of this stuff, you'll be able to watch it on replay. And beyond all of that, I'm going to go and have this Malaysian food now and eat and enjoy an evening out for a bite to eat. And I'll see you all in the next one. And in the meantime, thank you all so much for the support. If you haven't signed up to the newsletter yet, link in the description. I'll pick somebody in the next couple of days on the earnings video to buy you your shopping. It's not a prize. There's no way to enter. I just look through the comments and look for people that have been engaged or people that email me. And I appreciate that people reach out to me. And so just as a little bit of a thanks for you all watching this and supporting us as you do with adverts, I'll buy somebody their weekly shopping or a meal or whatever you like. So you can do that by joining the mail or comments or whatever else. Right, folks, have a great Sunday. Enjoy your day. I hope the weather's okay for you. I've seen snow and rain and everything else. If it helps you, it's raining here, but it is 28 degrees. And on that, I'll love you and leave you and say we'll see you in the next one.